And welcome back to Idaho Today. Top quality dining requires top quality produce. That's one of the many reasons why Boise's premier restaurant, The Lively, sources their produce locally. We joined decorated chef Edward on a trip to Purple Sage Farms to see how he celebrates Idaho's cornucopia of produce and the ultimate farm to fork experience. Chef Edward, we are here at Purple Sage Farms.
Yes.
It's a very special relationship at The Lively that you have with this farm here. Tell us a little bit about that relationship.
Yeah, so it's, I think, the longest standing relationship I have. Obviously, cooking local seasonal food requires me to have local seasonal relationships. So before I came on board and was here in the city, I reached out to a bunch of farmers from my spot in Hawaii, and Tim was one of the first ones to kindly reach back out to me. So when I landed, I got a tour of this farm as one of the first places I stopped, and just was thoroughly blown away by just the scale of what he does and what he's able to do with such a small operation, being a family farm, and at the same time the variety that he pulls in because of the passion that he brings to it.
You walk into the farm, you see so many greenhouses.
Sure.
I mean, the variety abounds here. What do you love so much about the variety in particular that Tim grows?
Just there's a lot of stuff that he brings to the table and into the greenhouses that you just wouldn't typically see.
It's Spilanthes, and it's called toothache cress, also buzz buttons.
And again, that just speaks to the passion. Yeah, I think definitely that he grows within season, which I think is what I really respect the most. But understanding the season and then also the requirements of what these individual plants want in order to thrive. And he's able to bring those together in a natural way. And the greenhouse serves as a laboratory in order to be able to pull that off. But you know, what I do love is that we're not doing anything. We're not stretching seasons here.
Yeah.
We're just stretching the availability of product.
Why source locally?
You know, I think it's logical. Really, it's logical. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to get into measurements of carbon footprints, et cetera. But, you know, I think that the way that our grandparents grew up was, you know, living very localized lives where everyone down the street was able to provide one thing that they could barter for something else that they brought to the table in exchange for different things, and then you cobbled together your meals from that. It's not quite that barter system that we've got going on, but I think that the integrity of the community and upholding that, I think, is important, and that stops with, or starts rather, with not flying your food in from beyond state borders. I mean, it's literally farm to table.
It is farm to table. I would love to go through some of these greenhouses with you and just see you go through your process.
Yeah, well, we've got a chef's table that we're going to try to prepare a dish for,
okay.
Inspired by a few things that Tim's called my attention to, but I think it's probably safer to let him do the picking, okay. And I'll just do the pointing because I want everything at this point.
Oh, so there's some chickweed that's coming up in the middle of the shungaku.
Well, shungaku, what is that?
That's a Japanese chrysanthemum. How would you say it?
Oh, shungiku.
Shungaku? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's
we cook with that all the time. It's great salad green, actually.
It's a salad green. That's how we sell it mostly, but also an edible flower. This is the Stevia, and the most interesting thing about it is its absolute sweetness.
Whoa!
It can be 1,000 times sweeter than sugar. And doesn't have quite the same aftertaste, but it is in a plant form, so it can have other compounds in there that
you definitely get that bitterness coming in.
It has some bitterness.
Which balances out the sweetness.
Corsican mint.
I always look for threads when I'm creating things, and they're not always logical or apparent to everyone, but I was starting off with a citrus theme, but I'm thinking about like matching up the stevia and some of this Corsican mint, just because of that connection of the sweet.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting to like have the plants almost transition on the palate.
There's the lemongrass. So
yeah, I need some of that.
So we've got
we need some of that. I wouldn't think to find this out in Middleton,
yes,
Idaho, of all places. It's just, you know, a lot of my inspiration comes from my time living in Japan, and a lot of what they do is they play with a bunch of different ideas, but one of them is the idea of 5 colors. So, you know, color is an important aspect, you know, white, red, black, green, and yellow.
the level of work that he does in both just from the foundation of what he puts on the plate in the first place and then how he finishes. He's a master at knowing how you do that. It's so interesting about the power of plants to produce an effect in us. And it sort of shows how human beings have grown up with plants. You know, how we've grown into how these things fit in our lives.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting is like nature has all of this available to you. We've manufactured it, but we've more or less reverse engineered it from plants. They're the original source. I just think that more people should get back to that.
This is interesting and discovery, and then you spend time wanting to know more because you've found this, and then it turns out there are 10 more, and then you find there are 20 more things that you've never known and that I never grew up with. This is salt and pepper country. Idaho is, and I grew up in the same way in Middleton, Idaho, the same way a lot of people throughout this state grow up in western states. I didn't know this existed. The food that we eat, we're eating what our food ate. And so that comes from the soil. So that's what has been my focus the last 4 or 5 years. Here, for 30 years, I knew what to do. I knew what to do, but now I've been learning why.
And coming up next, we'll join Chef Edward in the kitchen at the Lively to see how he takes his delicious finds and creates an elevated farm-to-fork experience for your taste buds. Stay with us.